Welcome to Potentials. And today we have, once again, we have Ed Kuberski and the Wingmakers. And so we're going to be doing the second episode of the Wingmakers today. So really looking forward to this. I will be reading Ed's notes that he took very meticulous notes on the Wingmakers. And so I'm going to be reading them to you. And then Ed will be sharing with us his insights. So thank you for being here, Ed, and for sharing your notes with us.
You're welcome, Ligia. It's nice to be back with you again. Yeah, Wingmakers is something that we both have passion in. So we thought that Ligia's got such a beautiful voice that we thought she'd read everything. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, let's
and
go
I've
ahead
got the
here.
mic.
yeah, and I can hear you. Good.
I hope you can hear me. Okay, so we're going to share the screen and I'm going to read it. You can read along with me, everyone. Wingmakers. The alien race, which he called the Cortium, had infiltrated the ACIU in 1958. And though he wasn't specific about how this occurred, he did say the Cortian race are still working with the ACIO to seed technologies on Earth that are superior to our native technologies. Within the ACIO, there are 14 distinct levels of security clearance. Those who are at level 12 and above are aware of the Cortium Technology Transfer Program, TTP. There are only 7 who are level 14 clearance, and they are the Directors of Intelligence, Security, Research, Special Projects, Operations, Information Systems, and Communications. Those directors report to the Executive Director, who is known simply as 15, which is the unique classification that is reserved for the head of the ACIO. The 8 people who comprise this inner sanctum of the ACIO are in possession of radical technologies that have been part of the Cortium TTP. However, there were also other extraterrestrial technologies that had been derived from recoveries of spacecraft or other alien artifacts, including various discoveries contained in ancient texts that had never been revealed before this. This scientific core is called the Labyrinth Group and consists of both men and women who have utilized the Cortium intelligence accelerator technologies to their own advantage. Dr. Anderson had a clearance of level 12 and was still kept from vital information that only the director level was aware. 15 was an enigma to everyone within the Labyrinth Group. He had been a physicist before he came to the executive director of ACIU, and he was one of the first to make contact with the Cortium and establish communication with them. The Cortium essentially appointed 15 as their liaison to the ACIO, and 15 became the first to utilize the intelligence accelerator technologies that the Cortium initially offered.
Do we want to stop there and
yes.
talk a little bit about things?
Sure.
Yeah, so the intelligence accelerator technologies is very interesting, and it's the Cortium group, I believe, that brought that in, and they are actually a group of extraterrestrials that were working with the ACIO, essentially. We're not exactly sure who they are, but they're definitely working with the ACIO since like back in the early 50s, essentially, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And 15 use these technologies to increase his intelligence. One thing that I'll say is going through the Wingmakers, the first time I did it, it really expanded my consciousness. The second time I did it, and the third time, because I actually did it twice for this, there is something there. There's something called fluid intelligence, which is being able to think on your feet, essentially, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's something that you've actually increased, you're saying? That you've increased your fluid intelligence by reading the Wingmakers?
Yeah, I think the first time I read it, it was actually it opened up my consciousness, because that was the big deep dive down the rabbit hole, essentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it definitely was, and reading it again, like I talked to you a little bit about it before, you really get into it. It's quite addictive, actually, but it's in a good kind of way, though, because it is making your mind think more and sort of think out of the box. But a lot of the stuff they're going to talk about here, we already kind of know where these aliens come from and these technologies, because this is all back from 1997, right? You have to remember. We
Right.
have to remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll let you carry on.
Okay. These technologies not only enhance cognitive abilities, memory, and higher order thinking skills, but also enhance the consciousness of the individual so that they can utilize the newly gained intelligence as a in a non-invasive manner. He explained to me that there are as many as 12 different extraterrestrial races currently involved in the past, present, and future of the Earth and its destiny. The ACIO, because of its mission with the NSA, is the most knowledgeable group about the various agendas of those 12 alien races.
Okay. So now we know about the Galactic Federation and the Intergalactic Confederation, and Elena's got 110 different alien races, names, pictures in her first book, A Gift from the Stars. So we know a lot more about this basically, but it does show that they were dealing with 12. That's what they were claiming. So it does show that there's a lot of activity with the extraterrestrials.
Absolutely. Yes. Apparently, there is an extraterrestrial race that may have hostile intent, and the
Okay, so
technology.
that's the Draco and the
Oh,
Greys, right?
right. Yeah. And the technological potential to disrupt the human social order and overtake it, as well as Earth itself. And this is what they were concerned about, especially back then. And this is before all of the things that we know now have come to fruition. So this is kind of predicting what could have possibly happened if there hadn't been some kind of a change in our consciousness.
Well,
This can,
there is an intervention essentially from a higher consciousnesses than us,
right.
essentially, right?
To
That's
help us, yeah, to help
yeah,
us
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
elevate, right. So this concern is what motivated 15 to assign the Labyrinth Group's intellect and collective energy to create the ultimate defense weapon, which they refer to as blank slate technology, or a form of time travel. I don't pretend to understand all of what Dr. Anderson described regarding BST when it was determined that the Ancient Arrow Project was in fact a time capsule from a future aspect of humanity.
Yeah,
So
so there's quite a bit to talk
interesting.
about here.
Yeah.
BST, blank slate technology, essentially what they were trying to do, so you can time travel back and forth, and even Andrew Basiago did it with his father, with Project Pegasus.
Right.
But when you interact, you can't change the outcome of the future. That's the deal. But
Okay.
this technology that they're trying to achieve, blank slate technology, were like intervention points where they would go in and they could change the future.
Yes.
So what they've done, is they're trying to engineer something so that the alien takeover doesn't happen. So it was actually a defensive weapon, essentially, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And apparently it worked because we're still here and everything seems to be going okay.
Well,
So,
I don't know that that these guys had anything to do with it, to be honest with you, because
okay.
we know that you showed on the other show that BST is part of the Department of Defense, and I think that the help came not from this group essentially, but from the wing makers themselves, and you have to separate them completely from
Okay.
the 12 other alien races. The wing
Right.
makers are completely separate from that. So
So
yeah.
this blank slate technology is from the Department of Defense and it's a form of time travel, apparently.
Well, like I just said, it's time travel where you can have an intervention point and change the future,
Interesting.
right?
That is very interesting. Yes.
So we
So,
start talking about horizontal time and vertical time, and we're going to
right.
get into that as we dive deeper in here. But
Right.
essentially, like I
So,
said, I don't think that the this group were the ones responsible for what's happening right now. This is from the Galactic Federation, from the Intergalactic Confederation. This group that was in cahoots with the government is probably pretty nefarious.
So
The
this,
aliens,
yeah,
right? Okay,
right.
so we
So
have to
this blank
separate them.
slate technology is not a good thing then. It's
Well, it's like any technology.
right,
It's
could
a
be
good
used
thing.
either way,
Yeah,
but
it's a good defensive thing, but offensively, sure, you can go in. And here's the deal: the reason why we're going to win this war over the deep state and everything going on Earth is because up high, they've actually taken all the timelines and crunched them down into one. And now there is no way that they can veer off and do different timelines. And that's why we're going to win. BST,
good.
I mean, I guess you could think of it that maybe the up highs are using this type of technology. That might even be a better way of looking at it.
That's what I was
Celestial.
hoping. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's what I'm saying, because
yeah.
obviously it's not doing bad things. Bad things aren't happening so much as they were before, is what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, it was October of 2021 when the Cedars came back that everything started to change. And that was when I, did the thing with David Wilcock and all of that stuff that we talked about on that 1 year
right,
anniversary radio show, right?
right. So yeah, so tying that into this is like saying, yeah, that blank slate technology can be used for good or evil. So maybe it's in both in both hands right now. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So he became convinced that the Wingmakers were time travelers and possessed a form of BST. He also became convinced that there were 6 additional time capsules stored in various places around the globe and that they held the technologies or insights that would enable the development of BST. He felt that the Wingmakers were communicating with him and had selected him as their liaison.
So 7 time capsules in total. The Wingmakers is one. Romania, Ugeji, I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's one there. And possibly even the arcs that JP is going into, they
Mm,
they might be considered part of this. I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that that's what it is. I know there's one in Ukraine, there's one in the Atlantic, there's one in Russia. Yeah, so I know about a few of them anyways.
interesting. So when he had contacted me, he had defected on the day before. He showed me photographs and documents from the Ancient Arrow project that appeared authentic to my eyes. He also showed me some of the technologies that were in development by the ACIO concerning holographic fractal objects, or HFOs, as he called them. I took 1 week off and spent most of it with Dr. Anderson, asking 1,000 questions, most of which, for the most part, he had ready answers to. There were times that I had honestly felt that he was an extraterrestrial. He was convinced that the ACIO would not allow him to defect with his memory intact.
So that's what he was worried about. They have this technology where they can and they use it in 20 and backs too with the secret space program, where they can rate very surgically erase memories. And he was worried that they were going to do that to him. So that's why he kind of defected and did this whole thing and had 5 interviews. We're only talking about 2 of them, but there were 5 in total. And yeah, so that's
Hmm.
that.
The old mind wipe.
Yep.
Okay. I think he was mostly interested in exposing the Wingmaker's time capsule and its philosophy and communication symbols. At one time, I asked him what his IQ was, and with all humility intact, he simply answered that there is no way to test it, and that the Labyrinth Group's members are not interested in IQ so much as what he called fluid intelligence, or the speed with which alternative creative solutions to a problem can be generated. He claimed this was the most important form of intelligence, and without it, one would not be able to time travel. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the, like I was saying, the fluid
Yeah.
intelligence part, right?
Yep. You wouldn't be able to time travel without that. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's interesting too that we both have a great uh, passion for time travel, teleportation, and all of this stuff, right? So
Yes.
makes me wonder. And we both read through the Wingmakers the first time, and that's what I believe. Reading through it, but more looking at the pictures and the music actually is what increases your fluid intelligence. So this is almost like an intelligence accelerating course, if you want,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yes. Listening to the music too.
Absolutely, yeah. The
Yeah.
music, which I don't have yet, I'm gonna still try and do that with the big
Okay.
stereo, and
Yeah.
I'll let you know how that works out.
Yeah, that would be amazing. The time traveler must have certain degree of fluid intelligence in order to withstand a stress inherent in time travel. And the best way to handle the stress was by having an extraordinary fluid intelligence. The thing I found so fascinating about Dr. Anderson was his descriptions of how information about ET's new physics, cosmology, prophecies, and the galactic hierarchy were hidden from the public, government, and even intelligence organizations. He told me that only one man had ever really tried to write about the NSA Special Project Laboratory, and that was back in 1950. And according to my notes, it was written by Wilbur Smith. Interesting. Who
Mm-hmm.
I believe was a journalist from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Interesting.
yes, I have approximately 60 pages of notes from my initial discussions with Dr. Anderson, and then 5 transcripts from the 5 interviews I conducted.
So
Wow.
it's too bad that we don't have all five. We only have two, right?
Yeah.
So you know, more than half is missing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and he probably either got his went back into the group and got his memory wiped, or they disposed of him. One
Oh.
of the two.
Or maybe they took him upstairs.
Uh, yeah, I don't know.
That's always a possibility. That's what I hope for anyway. I hope it wasn't the other two. Um, from
I
the
think it
desk,
was the first one. Sorry, I think it was the first one. They
you
brought him
do.
back into the group. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. From the desk of Jeremy Sothers, PhD, and Director of Special Projects at the ACIO, based on available research of the ancient Arrow time capsule, wingmakers seem to represent themselves as a future aspect of the human race from a time approximately 750 years in our future. They represent a version of humanity that has a comprehension of universal systems that govern existence, or at least the laws of time and space. This understanding permits the wingmakers to travel back in time and interact with humankind at various points in its evolutionary pathway.
So again, the ACIO is the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, and it's kind of interesting again with both of us that we're talking about this because of some of the other contacts that we've had. You know, in my case, knowing Elena Denon and Dr. Sala and the whole group. And you know Frank Chili now, and yeah, so it's interesting. You know, but 750 years into the future, they're going to talk more about that. And Jeremy Sothers, he's really important because he was actually the director, and some of the ACIO stuff that we're going to read into maybe in the next couple shows comes from him. There's a whole bunch of really good stuff from him.
That's cool. Yes.
Yeah.
I would speculate that wingmakers have throughout history been variously referred to as angels, gods, spirit guides, and in some instances, extraterrestrials. After successfully decoding the first of 23 segments of the optical disc left in the 23rd chamber, I will share a small excerpt of their introduction, as it were. You may refer to us as the wingmakers. We are most often confused with angels, though we are actually quite human, just a future, perhaps more advanced version.
Mm. Yeah. So there you go. Right.
Yeah, it's very interesting that it could be like they could be confused with also God's spirit guides, even, and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
ETs, which I could see how that would be the case. But yeah,
So
very interesting.
yeah, and my theory is that the wing makers, there's 23 chambers, and I have this straight now. There are 23 different. There's 24 seaters, but that includes the initial primate. So in essence, there's actually only 23. So my theory is that the seaters were responsible for this in some way or the other, and that's the Intergalactic Confederation. And I talked on X show the other day saying that I'm a part of that, being an envoy, and so are you actually. So again, I said to you one day, we're doing this, and
Hmm.
perhaps we are. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really cool. Uh, the angelic kingdom is a different species of life when compared to the human or the wingmakers format of existence. Wingmakers exist outside of time's focus, while their human, extraterrestrial, and angelic counterparts exist within and to various degrees are bound by the principles of time. Our uniqueness stems from our ability to operate independently of time while remaining human with all the physical and mental characteristics therein. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about how they exist out of time's focus. A couple things come to mind. I know that the nine are they're non-avatar, they're superplasmic consciousness that is in the void, and they're as old as the universe itself. And essentially they're directly connected to source. Whether or not that's what they're talking about here, I'm not quite sure, because that's what came to mind when I saw that. But the wing makers, they say that they're they have a body, they have a meat suit, right?
Okay.
I
So,
think isn't that what they just said? You just read that, right?
I mean, it says here that they exist outside of time,
Yeah, but what did
while
it
their
say at the
human,
bottom?
extraterrestrial, and angelic counterparts exist within and to various degrees are bound by the principles of time. So that would make
Yeah.
you believe that they would have some kind of being, some kind of physical being in order to exist within time, right?
Wing makers exist at a time where they're human,
So,
extraterrestrial.
like,
So,
part of them,
so human, extraterrestrial, and angelic counterparts exist within. So that's pretty much covering the whole realm,
right, right,
except for the nine. They're the ones that are literally, yeah, in the void, and definitely time doesn't affect them at all. There's
right.
no, because of
Yeah.
being in the void. So
Yeah. So it says their uniqueness stems from their ability to operate independently of time
yeah,
while remaining human with all the
yeah,
physical and mental characteristics therein. So that's interesting.
yeah.
Um,
So what? So yeah. So it's hard. Yeah. So it's probably not the nine, because it says they're remaining human.
right.
Um,
They're remaining physical and human, right? So
so
that's
that
interesting.
puts us back to the Intergalactic Confederation and the Cedars, essentially. So um, again, I think it's the Cedars that are doing this, and the Cedars are corporeal. They have a body. They have a meat suit. They all
Right.
do, essentially, right? Yeah. Interesting, eh?
Yes, very. Their stated purpose is to be the culture bearers, bringing the seeds of language, art, philosophy, scientific reasoning, and spiritual understanding to the human race throughout time. Apparently, they perform this duty without recognition, preferring to be unknown until the time is ripe to present themselves and their specific mission.
Hmm.
Wingmakers operate at the pinnacle of human existence since they are interactive time travelers. That's interesting. Their interaction with humans seems limited to select individuals who, during their dream state, are more accepting of new ideas and insights. These insights often filter into the contactee's waking life in the form of inventions and sudden discoveries. In
Hmm.
rare instances, I believe wingmakers will even physically appear, but owing to the time shift from which they come, Their bodies would appear to be constructed of light, and their communication, if there was any, is most likely telepathic.
Mm. Um, when they said the time is right to present themselves in their specific mission, just when I heard mission, it kind of perked my
Yes.
interest because both you and I are actually on this mission together. And, we're a team bringing forth as much truth as we can. And we're, again, trying to elevate people's consciousnesses. And that's exactly what the Wingmaker's whole thing, getting to that fluid intelligence. So this is
Yeah.
good for everyone. And like I
Yes.
said, there's music, there's poetry, there's philosophy, there's art, beautiful artwork, and the artwork is actually our portals as well. I don't know if you know that, but they're portals.
Yes, they are definitely. And I believe a lot of this is referring to star seeds in general. Like
Oh,
a lot of star seeds have these gifts and abilities, and they're bringing forth all of this information. So when I was reading that, that's why I was smiling, because I'm like, so many people, this is going to resonate with so many people that are watching this right now.
yeah,
So that's really cool.
yeah, very
Um,
cool.
According to the records of ancient Arrow site, it was the Wingmakers who originally seeded life upon Earth and
Okay, okay,
facilitated.
let's stop right there because that's exactly what the Cedars did. The
Right.
Cedars came, the first wave started 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs were wiped out. And then
Yes.
there were 12 different races that came. And then after
Oops.
three, plus the actual primate that they seeded from. So that sentence, sorry for stopping you there, but that sentence essentially tells us who they are
No,
right
that's
there,
good.
right?
Thank you for clearing that up. Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so they originally seeded life upon Earth and facilitated life's evolutionary leaps and biological transformations. They and we, according to them, originated from the star system Pleiades. They came as the human genotype and brought with them a library of genetic codes that, through experimentation, produced the human species and, of course, most other forms of life on Earth. Through their time travel technology, they have planted time capsules from their future time. Wow, that's really cool. One of their most outlandish claims is that they essentially seeded the concept of the internet for the purpose of developing this global culture. They believe the internet will somehow become the platform upon which their time capsules will be fully launched into the mainstream of the world's citizens. They predict, and I use this word with chilling precision, that by the time their time capsule is discovered in 2023, this is amazing.
Okay, so okay,
Whoa.
there's lots to unpack here. The internet,
Wow.
the internet, what are we doing
Yeah,
right now? Right?
exactly. And
Yeah,
this was written in the 90s, so they had no clue. They
yep,
absolutely, and they thought
yep.
this was outlandish. That's
Yeah,
so hilarious.
I got my shivers down my spine. In
I know.
2023, so what happened in 2023 was Dr. Sala, and I don't know if we have this link to put in from the last show. Maybe you can add that link in from Dr. Sala's deal with JP going in.
Yeah,
Um,
we've linked that before. Yes.
yeah, we
Hmm.
should try and do it on this show if we can too, because that's the first time that it was publicly talked about with
Yes.
Dr. Sala and JP going in there. So and we're not 100% sure that it's the Wingmaker Cave because there is Kincaid's Cave as well that I know about, which is in the Grand Canyon as well. But yeah, this is pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yes. It seems to be pretty timely and
Yeah.
pretty accurate. So that's amazing. The artifacts in the AA time capsule, and indeed the time capsule itself, are clear evidence of this group's advanced technology, and I believe their predictions should be taken as more than mere speculation or clairvoyance. In other words, their language is a multidimensional puzzle. If our
Mm.
interpretation is accurate, the Wingmakers have placed 6 additional time capsules strategically located on the planet, which will be discovered in a certain sequence. Dr. Stevens is quite convinced that the wingmakers interacted with a prehistoric Native American tribe known as the Anasazi. Yes, I know who
Okay,
they are, which were known
so
to inhabit that area of northern Mexico. Yes.
the Anasazi in 1987, when I really started, taking my deep dive, that was the absolute first thing that I did was learn about the Anasazi. And I had this
Mm,
old video, because it was a VCR
yes.
videotape that was I watched it so many times that it was always wearing out essentially, right? I might still have it. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, it was a deep dive into the Anasazi, and they disappeared literally a couple hundred years later, and there was no, like, they're just gone essentially. So did the wingmakers come and get them, or did they have the technology? Was there a portal there?
Right.
Okay, right?
Right.
Yeah, so there's
That's fascinating. Yeah.
yeah.
And I do have a feeling about the Anasazi as well, because when I was young, I used to draw the same symbols that the Anasazi have on all of their pottery that they left behind.
Wow.
And I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just liked those symbols, and I just used to put them on my homework and
Oh wow.
my test papers that I would turn in. I would draw borders on them.
Wow.
And I didn't know. And then I think I was in college when I started looking into the Anasazi, and then I saw those symbols and I was like, whoa, that's really weird. I used to draw those all the time. So maybe I have a connection to them. I don't know. It's weird.
I would probably say you do, actually.
That's
Knowing
very
you,
strange.
yeah, yeah,
Very
very
interesting.
strange. Very
Very, very
strange.
strange and very interesting. Um, Carbon
Yep.
dating places the paints used on the cavern walls at approximately AD 840, which coincides with the flowering of the Anasazi culture. It is interesting to note that, according to Dr. Stevens, the Anasazi Indians mysteriously disappeared about 200 years later. So
Yeah.
that would have been 1040
Yeah.
AD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wingmakers are a select tribe or faction of humanity in the middle part of the 28th century who have combined science, philosophy, and art into a unified religion and language. Culture building is the primary focus of the Wingmakers because it is understood to have such a significance bearing on the world of spirit and cosmological transformation. Culture culture building, by definition, integrates the values of individualism with the value of oneness. It is the
Mm,
goal of life as it is related to a species to evolve itself where it can conscious of its diverse perceptives and be I think that can be conscious of its diverse perceptions and expressions and integrate them into a cohesive, all-inclusive culture. Though this global culture, through this global culture, humankind will become increasingly sensitive to the spiritual inclinations of oneness. Not only oneness with the human species, but within the whole of life that embraces and envelops the human species.
pretty cool. We've talked
Beautiful.
about oneness before,
Right.
especially when we did the "We Are the Arcturians," "We the Arcturians" book.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of that talk in there, but yeah, it's beautiful, right?
What I like about it too is it says over here the values of individualism with the value. It combines and integrates them so that you don't lose your individuality, but at the same time you value oneness with each other. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. I love that. Um,
And that's the way of the Arcturians, literally.
yes,
That's
that
and
is, yeah.
so having said that, the 5D Earth that we're coming into, um, Arcturus is the model for the new Earth, the 5D
Mhm.
Earth, essentially, right? So, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Wingmakers are aware that humankind is intricately connected to all other species and forms of life within the universe of wholeness. This is known as the mind of God. It is the accumulative knowledge of Prime Creator achieved through absorbing the life experience of all life forms. This all-encompassing knowledge is shared willingly to all life forms, but is only comprehensible to those who have achieved an ability to step out of time. They seem indicative of a philosophical group who has very specific mission and the technology to see their mission through to completion. There are over 1,800 pages of text embedded within the optical disc, organized in 23 sections to coincide with each chamber of the AA site.
Yeah, so there's an optical disc that was left in the last chamber that I think it was actually Dr. Anderson that was responsible for decoding it. And that's why eventually the Wingmakers chose him to be their liaison and, and get the story out. Without any of that happening, we wouldn't be talking right now. That's the other thing we have to remember, right? It's super cool. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So there are references to the new physics of time travel and some interesting exposition about how the individual soul interacts with the multiverse or cosmological order. Much of the poetry, music, and visual art appear benign, but seem to have a powerful effect on those of the research team who are developing the translation tables. The Wingmakers use an encoded language that has an effect on the subconscious mind of building holistic sensory perception in the cerebrospinal system. Interesting.
Yeah,
Which is
that,
to say that two of our best 12-time linguistic expert to 12x linguistic experts claim to have improved mental activity, visual perception, intuition, and creative skills as a direct result of working on the project. We should all work on this project.
yeah, well, we are actually, aren't we?
Yes, we should, but everybody should.
But well, that's why we're doing this, right?
Yes.
The 12x is that's the security level. So
Oh, okay.
12x and it goes up to 14, and then 15 is the leader. So that's nobody has 15 level, and there's like 7 people that are at 14, and then a bunch of 12. But this whole thing is a 12 plus security level. So that's also interesting. It just means that there was a tiny handful of people that were involved with it.
Right. They said only 2 of their best experts claim to have had improved mental activity. So that's good.
Linguistic experts. Linguistic experts. The others also did have for interacting with the poetry, with the music, with the paintings. Everyone that did it had stuff going on.
Oh, good. Okay, good to know. Okay. This new form of intelligence, which is zealousness. Okay. It seems that as the researchers' new intelligence is activated or somehow generated through the process of decoding the encoded language of the Wingmakers, they become fervent believers in the Wingmakers and they lose their objectivity. The Wingmakers, we believe, their time travel technology may be a synthesis of human consciousness and a biocomputer whose neural net is able to adjust dimensional sequencing with such precision that they can open and, more amazingly, maintain a time window for an indefinite period. Wow.
Lots going on there, right?
Yeah.
The synthesis of human consciousness in a biocomputer, that completely reminds me of me talking about my Arcturian starship and what the ship is actually made of. It's a conscious metal. It's a form of it's an amorphous metal, but it's got consciousness. And I've been going through some of the Chris Beskar stuff recently, and there's a lot of talk about all of that stuff because he's working with that kind of stuff already. So yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah. Okay, so we are back at this one. Okay, there are references to the new physics of time travel and some interesting exposition about how the individual soul interacts with the multiverse or cosmological order. Much of the poetry, music, and visual art must appear benign, but seem to have powerful effect on those of the research team who were developing the translation tables. The wing makers use an encoded language that has an effect on the subconscious mind of building holistic sensory perception in this cerebral spinal system. Now, I wanted to talk about that. Is this where we talk about the Kundalini rising? Would
What
that have
section?
something to do with that?
I'm
It's
a little bit confused here.
19
Which
right here. It's where it says
19?
yeah, it's in 19. It
Oh,
says
so you went backwards. Okay.
I just went to where it says they were building a holistic sensory perception in the cerebrospinal system. Would that have anything to do with the Kundalini rising in your spine?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's kind of bringing that back in a way to
Um,
people who
yeah, it's,
need, yeah,
I think, I mean, everybody has it, but everybody needs to exercise it. And yeah, this is a way to, um, training wheels. These are
right.
training wheels, right? And yeah, so yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
that
like
is very interesting.
bringing it up, making it rise. That's what I meant by bringing it back. Not saying that we don't have it, but saying to bring it up through the spinal cord because most people have it dormant and they
And
just
it's,
need to bring. Yes.
and it's a twisted pair too, right? It's not just
Mhm.
one,
Right.
it's two, right? And
Yeah.
it
There's
looks like the DNA, it's twisted the
strand.
DNA
Right.
sequence strand. Yeah,
It's like the
exactly.
caduceus. It's like the caduceus, and then there's
Yeah,
the energy that goes up the center,
yeah,
like the Z plane, right? Okay. This form of intelligence, which is zealousness, it seems that as the researcher's new intelligence is activated or somehow generated. Wait, did I read this? Oh, yes, I did.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's why you got me
No,
confused.
I got, okay, because, okay, so then we went to for an indefinite period.
You're
Okay.
at 21. You're at
I'm at
21 now.
21 now. Dr.
Yeah.
Arneson concludes that the site would have taken, even with advanced excavation technology and a crew of 50 workers, a minimum of 3 months to create. The 23 chambers of the AA site are carved using some form of sound resonator technology. We
Boom.
believe,
Interesting. Sorry.
yes. Oh, no. We believe one of the artifacts left behind in Chamber 6 is an example of their sound resonator technology used to carve rock with sound frequencies. We will continue the testing to see if we can access its high frequency range where it is assumed the tool cuts through rock or even metal alloys. Yes. Yes.
Wow. Right? Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Which is what we believe we might have had at one time.
Well, we did. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. We
Yeah.
absolutely
So
did. Yeah.
it would be nice to have that back. And I believe we probably do have it right now. It's just not being shared with the public.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to at this point, actually.
Yes, probably
Yeah,
safe to not say anything at this point.
yeah.
Okay. Molecular scans show evidence of trace amounts of human DNA, not on the casing of the artifact, but inside. In total, there are 23 artifacts, one in which of the 20, one in each of the 23 chambers. Preliminary discussions are ongoing with Bell Labs Cogent Group and Incunabula documents
That's why you're doing
okay,
this.
have been distributed to its director of research, Dr. Vonderman. His team is expert in sound resonator technologies. If BST is hidden in any one or combination of these artifacts, it is our top priority to access this technology and learn how to apply it. Human culture deeply affects the spirit world, and your Einstein predicted ripples touch the entire cosmos. It imprints upon the world of a spirit vitality energy, a vital energy, sorry. An energy of love, passion, involvement, creativity, and perhaps most important, a sense of personal expression and bold individuality. This energy is precisely what balances the energy that drives a species to seek oneness with its creator.
Wow, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to the beginning of that, where they said that there's evidence of trace amounts of DNA within the actual artifacts or within the metal.
Right.
So we're back to what I was talking about on my Arcturian starship. There, my DNA is in that ship. So
Yeah.
only I can operate it or my crew or anybody that's there. You can't even get aboard it without that. So when Andrea tried, she couldn't, and Miranda tried, she couldn't. Um, Although Rebecca did 4 times, but
Hmm.
obviously she's got something more going on there that she's able to do that. Miranda did say that she would be able to do it, but she wasn't ready for it. It wasn't that wasn't us or me or the ship. It was her that just didn't have the energy or whatever to, or the consciousness at that point to do it. So it's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
But
interesting.
I love the oneness with its creator, right? This is back to the Arcturian thing, and we the Arcturians, that we love so much.
Yes. Yes. It's beautiful. Okay. And this is the last section, number 23. The energy of the multiverse is like a giant funnel that delivers a species into the mind of God, the only vessel of prime creator. This funnel creates an overbearing drive for oneness and a reconnection with the mind of God in a developing species. In this drive for oneness, beings can forget their individuality. Their unique life experience could be forsaken for oneness, if not for the experience of the physical, mental, and emotional involvement in building a separate species based culture. Wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we did 23 talking points because there's 23 chambers.
Yes, I
Yeah,
knew that.
yeah. Oh no,
That's cool. What?
Andrea just said somebody had passed on.
Oh no.
No.
Okay. Well, we probably shouldn't be talking
Yeah,
about that on here.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
there's an
Um,
Arcturian too, actually.
a what?
An Arcturian,
What about the Arcturian?
star seed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Um, let's just have a moment and think about that person, actually, right?
Okay. I don't know who that is, but I'll think
You,
about it.
you, yeah, you'll
I
know
won't
who it
look.
is.
I don't want to look at my phone while I'm doing this. You don't have
Yeah,
a choice because you're doing it
yeah,
on your phone.
yeah. We just have to have honor and respect for everything that they did, right?
Oh,
That's
yes, definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So that's part 2 of Wingmakers on Potentials.
Yes. Thank you very much again for sharing all of this with us. And
You're
it's
welcome.
it's very deep. I feel it's something that requires going over again and again. It's not something you just gloss over and read
Yeah,
really quick and then just you have to go back and look at it again. And
yeah,
that's why it's nice that you have these all handwritten, written out and everything.
yeah.
There
So
is a Wingmaker's website, but I'm not sure if it has any of this information on it.
oh, this is all from the. So what I did is I printed off all of the information from the original Wingmaker site, and
Yes,
I read through the whole thing once, and then I read
right.
through it again, and I highlighted all of this stuff, and then I hand wrote it all out so that you could read it to me because I really like hearing your voice. It was awesome. It was awesome
Thank
this time. Yeah. So
Thank you. Well,
yeah,
I hope that I did it well and I tried as best I could. And
perfect.
thank you. And so thank you for taking the energy. And I know it really took a lot out of you to do this. So I do appreciate that. And everybody, if you want to, screenshot these, that's great because then you
Yeah,
can read it on your own and take the time that you want to really look into it because it is very deep and very
yeah,
fascinating stuff. And if it resonates with you and you're feeling this, then maybe, you should look into it a little bit more, that's my advice, for what it's worth.
def- definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well,
So,
well, thank you for having
yes.
me on again.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. And we will be doing more of this. And so it's only going to get more interesting from here. So we hope to have everybody back again to watch the next ones. And thank you for watching and liking and subscribing to my channel. And And if you want to leave a comment and have anything that you want to add to this, I would love to hear it. And, I will respond. Ed will respond. I don't want to speak for Ed, but he probably will. And, also, I have a Patreon as well that, has a lot of interesting, uh, videos on subquantum kinetics and other things that we've discussed, and a few other interviews that I've done with other people as well. And that some of them I can't post on YouTube. And not only that, but people who have YouTube but don't have YouTube Premium and don't want to spend that, whatever it is a month, I think it's $10. For half of that, you can join the Patreon and watch my videos ad free,
Absolutely. Yeah.
without any interruption. So, that's another reason to join the Patreon. So it's Potentials Podcast on Patreon, and I would be honored to have you as one of my Patreon members. So thanks again, and thanks for watching. And we will see you. I will stop sharing. I don't even know. Had that up the whole time. We will see you next time. And I love each and every one of you. So just thank you, and ciao for now.